Cleaning my teeth? Oh, thanks.
I was trying to hide it.
Right when we started the recording. Perfect. Um, okay. Just need a little bit more space. Okay, so we thought today we would do a little bit of a review slash maybe here comes Alina. Review slash maybe it's the first time we've ever talked about it in a group. I know we've kind of mentioned it, but we haven't necessarily talked about it in a group. Hey, Alina, how are ya?
Oh, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm going good. We're just gonna roll right in and get started. Cool. So we are, every week is a little different. We're mixing things up. And this week we thought we'd talk a little bit about some ways to get to know your mind a little bit better. Something Carly and I love to do. And that one of the ways that we can do that is through something called parts work. The official name is Internal Family Systems, or IFS, which was created a while ago in a proper therapy setting. There's a great book called No Bad Parts. I think, Mary Lou, have you read that one? Or no? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. I have not read it yet.
Okay, not read it yet.
It is on my list for sure.
The author is Richard Schwartz, or also goes by Dick Schwartz.
He's the guy who made up this thing that we're going to teach you. But it's a really helpful thing that he made it to. And when we explain it, you'll be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I've lived this long and not thought about it like this. That's how it was for me.
He's also assigning like terminology that is super relatable and understandable to the everyday person for things that are actually happening on a neurological level.
Amazing. Oh, and Katrina's just joining too. Let's give her a second to get on the audio. Hey, Katrina. Can you hear us okay? Hi, how you doing?
A little tired. How are you?
A little tired. Yeah. I think a little tired today. I think
that's going around today.
going around. We can't see you, Katrina. I don't know if you want to turn your video on, but it would be great to see your face if you feel up for it. I'm feeling a little tired today too. And Alina, I don't know how you're feeling. There you are. Hi.
Okay. Yeah.
Doing okay today. Awesome.
Yeah.
So we'll just kind of start again. Katrina, welcome. So today our call is going to be two sections. So one is going to be about explaining a way that you can work with your mind to navigate internal conflict and anxieties and things like that. And then the other half will be just making sure you guys are all like clear on what your goals are for the next like week or so. I know for the US, we're heading into a holiday. Always want to make sure you guys are like super clear. I know, Elena, you're in the middle of a protocol. Katrina, you just started a protocol, and I have some updates for you on how to get things to you in Canada. And Mary Lou, you're always in between things. So we'll teach you some stuff. We'll do an exercise, and then we'll wrap it up with just making sure you guys are like, know where you're going, basically. All right, sound good? Yes. Thumbs up. Okay. So parts work, we were just starting to explain, Katrina. So parts work is called Internal Family Systems from Richard Schwartz. Carly was just explaining who he was, or who he is. And he wrote this book called No Bad Parts. And this concept really helps with, well, it helps a lot, Carly, when you say, but I think anxiety is probably like one of the best things that it helps with, and just getting to know yourself a little bit better. And it's kind of like a therapy. You can do it with a therapist, but you can also do it for yourself. And so one of the things we always want to encourage is you guys to have these tools so that if you feel stuck, you have something in your own back pocket that you can do. Sound good? Awesome. Okay. So we're going to go through like what are parts, and there's 3 different types, and then we'll do an exercise. All right. So, and Carly, you can jump in and stop me if you want to add anything at any time too. But I'm gonna share my screen because we typed out some stuff here that I think is really helpful. You guys can just ignore my vast array of tabs.
Also, so the concept of parts, what it's explaining is happening in the brain. So basically, like the most simplified way I can explain what parts are is like if your friend is asking you to go to the movies and you're like, oh, a part of me really wants to go to the movies and another part of me wants to stay home. That would be like the most chunked up version of understanding what does that mean when we're saying parts.
I love that example.
On a neurological level, parts are created out of the way that our brain seeks to protect ourselves. And so even if you have a part of you, like Sophie mentioned, anxious parts or there's self-harming parts, even when from an outsider observer, the thing that the part of your brain is partaking in doing seems harmful or neglectful, all parts have the same basic core job or desire, which is to keep you protected.
And
Parts are also born out of like significant emotional experiences. And what's happening on a brain level is that the way that we know to communicate with ourselves is that neurons in our brain are firing off, and the synapses between our brain cells are basically telling our brain how to communicate with different parts, right? Like I'm lifting up my arm because a part of my brain is making the communication jump that's allowing me to know that I need to move my arm. When we experience significant emotional events or traumatic events or events that we perceive to be traumatic, the signals in our brains can then link to either a trigger within that event or it can unlink from a trigger as a form of protection. So just on like a more severe level, right? If you're too young when something very traumatic happens to you, your brain might form a wall around the memory to protect you. And that wall is basically the wiring of the signals of the brain closing off and saying, nope, we're not going to access that memory right now. We're not going to access that memory right now. And out of that, your brain sort of gets parted off, the part that can hold on to that memory and the part of you that is kind of creating the safety net that you can't actually access that memory. So that's sort of like an overall idea of what parts is. And I just want to make sure that we're connecting it to the fact that there is actually something happening neurologically within the brain. It's not just like the voodoo term that we're calling for things that we're doing and acting out. There's like scientific stuff that's going on.
I love that. I love the science. Such a nerd. I know Elena really likes the science too.
I love science.
Yeah, it's a really good point though. Like anything we're acting out, whether it's physically or mentally, it has to be happening at the brain-based level. It's just that's literally, otherwise we would be vegetables, right? We wouldn't be able to move and communicate. So, it can be something that's like a big trauma, but the way I also think of it is like when we're young and like something happens and we experience something and maybe we don't have all the tools and resources yet to really like protect ourselves. And it doesn't have to be a big T trauma. It could just be like, someone getting mad at us for something and then you don't really know how to put a boundary up or something like that. A part of you could learn like also like a strategy that would keep you safe. Like, for example, oh, when someone raises their voice, I go and make sure that they're taken care of because that makes them lower their voice and that protects me. So it's usually these parts of us are from learned experience. And where it relates also to the physical body is how it manifests, I think, into, heart palpitations, fatigue, anxiety, because thinking about those things and being in either like a defense place or like an anxious space can really deplete our energy. Do you guys see how that's related to the physical body?
Yeah, it's so funny this weekend. So for those of you who don't know me, I spent about 20 decades on antidepressants and just kind of like medications that numb you. And then also because of my parts and my past experiences, not only was on medications that were numbing, but I just had a lot of parts that were also numbing. And I've been doing a lot of work on the emotional body of feeling the emotions that were within that time period when I wasn't feeling them, but it's been translating over to the physical body. So this weekend I was like sitting and all of a sudden my arm just started having severe pain. And I was like, oh, let's pull out parts on this. Like, why are you hurting arm? Like, what's the pain for? And it was like, it literally just like my subconscious gave it the voice of like, I just need you to move positions. And I moved positions and literally, I swear the pain just like went away, which is so cool because it also shows that there's been trust built up between me and my body. Because honestly, I believe that if that had happened before I had done any of the inner work, moving my arm position wouldn't have allowed the pain to go away because that pain signal wouldn't have trusted that I actually like knew what I was doing and that I was listening to it.
That's a great example and actually brings, so before I share my screen and go into the different types of parts, I think one that's really great to bring into this space is that, and some of you may have experienced this on one-to-one calls with Carly or I, but your body parts can also be parts. And, you know, part of becoming your own self-healer is learning how to talk to yourself and asking what it needs. So like I would say Mary Belanti's post of like, I really wanted artichokes and I wasn't really sure why, but then I just went and I got them. And then she looked and realized they were really rich in the foods that she's low in. So of course she needs, like, this is conversation that's happening. So I think it can be used. So a lot of times if I feel tightness in my chest or I feel something like that, let's use that example. Like last week on our nervous system call, we talked about like chest tapping, right? And like, different ways we could calm ourselves down more somatically. But this is also a tool for how can I meet myself where I'm at and calm myself down? How can I also be with these parts and ask them what they need? Because more and more you give to yourself and your parts what they need and help them, the more that they'll actually calm down and your pain will go down, your energy will come up, and your mental health stuff will relax. Does that make sense? How that
Yeah,
works?
an analogy sort of just popped into my head as you're saying that, which is like combining what you're saying with the arm, is it's kind of like most of your parts are born out of experiences from childhood. So, right, it's like my arm speaking out in pain. If that was a baby or a child and it was crying, and then I came in and I just like put it down and then like abandoned and left it again, would that baby trust that it can stop crying and that it's safe?
Yeah.
No, so it's like learning to sit with yourself and your parts through your pain and help to kind of work through it and give it a voice and give it the tools and resources it needs to then trust you that, oh, okay, when you put me down, like I trust that you've got me and that like I can stop yelling for pain right now because you're on top of it. I don't have to be the one that's carrying the burden anymore.
Yeah. So I'd love to hear you guys just unmute real quick. What do you hear in all of what we just shared before we move on? What are your reflections? You can just go popcorn style, just unmute yourself.
I feel like we've just in like Western society, we've just done a lot of band-aid solutions. And I feel like that's why we're so disconnected with our bodies. Because science is incredible and it has helped us, but we're forgetting how to like listen to our bodies to actually like help it also. Because like animals, like they like get sick and like they fix themselves. Like, and I feel like we go roundabout ways to fix ourselves sometimes.
Yeah. I love that analogy too, of like animals already know what to do. I watched this video of this horse giving birth. It was so random on TikTok, like the things you can find on there, but it was just so interesting to watch because we've turned like birth into like a $7,000 experience for like the mom and baby in the States. And I know Katrina, you're in Canada, so hopefully it's different there. But it's like it's interesting how we've complicated it. And sometimes we can come back to this like basic knowing. Yeah. Go ahead,
Yeah, I
Mary.
agree with Elena. That was a really good point because that reminded me with Carly's cat. I mean, I've had cats for years, and they eat grass. And if they need to throw up or, whatever, but we seems like try and mask whatever our symptom is instead of thinking, how can we fix it? We're just like, all right, well, I'll just take, that Advil or that Tylenol or whatever, instead of just taking a minute saying, what else might it be? Why do I have this headache or why do I have this pain or something? So yeah, just the whole listening, just stop and listening,
It's
to
true
your
because
body.
until you learn how to listen to the pain and be in partnership with the pain, are you really consciously choosing when it's appropriate to not be in pain with yourself, right? Like, I mean, I was messaging Sophie the day that I broke my arm because they were prescribing me pretty heavy pain medications. And it was just one of those where I just wanted to hear from like my friends who I know have done a lot of the work from both the functional medicine standpoint and the mindset. Like, what am I supposed to do here? I've swung very hard to the I don't do traditional medicine and I'm being prescribed. And, she very lovingly was like, you have a
Take
broken bone. Like, there's a time and a place for the pain. Like, you don't need to be feeling it right now. Like, go to sleep. Sleep is so important. Like, it's so true.
Amazing. Katrina, anything you want to share or add?
So not really, but say the others kind of mentioned that intuition. It just reminded me of my spiritual advocate. She often will drop into her body
Mm.
and try and ask, about to say, like what Carly was mentioning, about to say what, like, why do I feel pain in this particular place? What can I do for you? Just kind of like reminded me of what she does.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
Well,
And so you can do that for yourself. You can do that for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, she's trying to teach me, but she knows that I have a lot of work to do before I get there.
And we all do.
Yeah. When I first learned this stuff too, Katrina, I was like, wait, what? I can ask myself. Like, I don't know about that. Like, I just had so many things like that to say about it. So, I hear you. And let this be easy. Let's try something today and see how it goes. Yeah, cool. Okay, so I'll share my screen just for a little bit of support there for you guys. So within these fractured parts of us, or pieces of us, there's a couple different types of parts. So there's exiles, and these are typically our younger parts that hold a lot of our emotions and our vulnerabilities, like fear of speaking up, fear of being seen, things like that. Needs, and our memories, and that went ignored and are unresolved and went literally into exile because they were not seen, heard, and appreciated. Does everyone hear that? Yeah, cool.
In my very first example, this would be the part that holds the repressed memory.
Yes, this is the part that holds the repressed memory because it's not safe for it to be expressed. So we put them away because there's no space to process the needs of the trauma or stress experience. And it's where we hold, memory, sensation, beliefs, and emotions. There's a lot of like terror and collapse, also like accommodation. So people pleasing with this, right? Because it's like, let's just hide this away. And these parts can sometimes trigger the pain to come up because they're trying to hold so much that it's overflowing out of them. And usually it's like a wounded inner child, like a younger version of you, that can pop up here. So I know for me, like my wounded inner child, she's very specific. Like I can feel her. She is like always hunched over, and like in my visual of her, she's always like alone and by herself. Like she doesn't have a lot of support. It's really specific, and it's like it's so linked to not feeling like I could be totally myself. So that's like an example of an exiled part. Okay, cool. And then managers are the ones that want to stay in control. So they want to keep us and the world safe. They are going to try to stop all of the exile from coming out and expressing itself. So this can show up as self-loathing, inner critics, obsessions, distractions. It can even be something like more insidious or harmful, like hurting yourself or even like disordered eating things. Basically, whatever that part needs to do to keep you from really feeling what you experienced or going into it. So they're managing the little exile, like don't show yourself, don't be vulnerable. They are definitely, I think Carly said this earlier to me on the phone, and I thought it was really good. She's like, these are our masks. These are like the things we put up when we don't feel like it's safe to be vulnerable. So we won't let them come out. Those other parts. Anything you want to add, Carly, before I move on?
Just usually that these are the parts that are carrying a really heavy burden.
Yes. Yeah. So these parts are, obviously they're trying to like I think of them as micromanagers. They're like
It's happening on a subconscious level for the most part. I mean, as we do the inner work, we learn to become more aware. Like Sophie just mentioned that she noticed like how her body is hunched over when she's getting closer to an inner child and things like that. It's not something that I'm not like walking down the street and like, I'm in my inner child. I'm in a manager part. I mean, a little bit now because I've done so much of the work. We'll talk to each other about like, my protector is doing this today and things like that. But I mean, at the core of it, it's all happening really quickly and it's happening pretty subconsciously. So, I mean, I developed an eating disorder, and right around the time that I developed it was as I was uncovering repressed memories, I was getting closer and closer to the exile, the inner child. And there was so much fear around, what that inner child was going to do, that them and like how they'd be perceived, that the manager's doing like pretty much everything to just appear like a normal human being, which we are, but we're human beings with histories.
Yeah, totally. And then the third category are our firefighters. So these are like our extreme versions of managers, but they usually come out once we've done something that's exposed us and we do feel that vulnerability or that pain or that hurt, and they'll be more impulsive and they'll engage in like an act of desperation to basically put the pain and hurt away. So this could be like an addictive behavior or completely shutting down, disassociating or disconnecting from yourself and others. So like hermiting, being, not talking to other people, cutting people out, that kind of stuff, or being self-destructive. It could also even be like, I'm gonna drink my way through this because I don't want to feel it, or whatever way basically is like to keep the exposure back, because there's been an exposure to like something you're uncomfortable with, and now it's like, let me do all the things to like get this to go away. So typically they come out after your inner child part has been exposed or found in like a moment of vulnerability, and they'll try to interrupt. So if you've ever been like in a situation where you've like shared something and you're like, oh my God, I shared. What if no one gets me? What if they think I'm crazy? Maybe I should smile at all of them, or I should add this to what I'm saying, or do this next. That would be like a firefighter being like, let me, come out and protect you because you've exposed yourself.
I
So
just thought of an oh, sorry.
yeah, go for it. No, examples are good.
It's funny because I just thought of an example and I was like, this happened to both me and Sophie without knowing that it happened to both of us. But at our level 1 trainings, there was a test that we had to take to pass, and half the questions like on the test, we weren't taught how to like answer them yet. So to me, like my manager part, is funny because Sophie had a very similar experience and I didn't know till after I went through mine, which was like 6 months later. But so for me, like my manager part was like the type A, the perfectionist, like I'm going to be amazing at this test. I'm going to like get the straight A. I was finished, one of the first ones finished with it. But the entire time that I was taking it, I was questioning it. And so the questioning of it, the like hostility on the inside that I wasn't showing on the outside, that's getting really close to an exile. There was some sort of inner wounds around this test, around what people were going to think about me, that was really getting triggered. And the firefighter, like seeing the inner child starting to come out and feel wounded, is going to cover it up by like, this is stupid, like, like lashing out at the 2 people who are hosting the event, who are required to give us the test, and like trying, like put the fire, they'd rather be seen as angry or like distraught than like an inner child who's vulnerable and like not maybe like, the limiting decisions of what am I making it to mean if I don't know the answers.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Like same. Like I've told this story before, but I had this similar. I literally in front of, like, one of the notes on here is that firefighter parts will burn the entire house down to try to save the system.
Yeah.
And I had a meltdown like in front of other adults that didn't know me, because that was better. If I was like, this is stupid. Why do we have to hand in the test before we've learned all the materials? And I was like putting up these like shields, versus really what it was like I was scared of like not getting a good grade and them thinking that I was stupid. Right? So it's like usually anger could be like a good example of a firefighter, or like maybe it's like the pain's too great, so I'm gonna like drink or binge watch TV or scroll on my phone or something like that. Could be like maybe a firefighter too.
Sometimes the behaviors of the managers and the firefighters can overlap. At the end of the day, they're both types of protectors. So it's like, you don't need to be able to be like, that's my firefighter, that's my manager. It's just, I'm doing that thing that I'm trying to protect myself at this time.
Does this concept kind of make sense, that there's like the parts that are trying to hold it all together and the parts that are trying to protect them? All right. So we're gonna do an exercise. We'd like to ground this in real life for you guys. So a really good way to identify if you're doing this to yourself and to move through it is if, can you guys all think of something? Just take your time to think about it. You don't have to like put pressure on yourself, but if there's something that you've wanted recently, or maybe, yeah, in the last, let's say 3 months or 6 months, something you've really wanted, like, I don't know, let's give an example. Like, I really want to go to the gym 3 times a week, but you keep finding a way of not doing it. Like, there's always a reason why it doesn't happen. And so there's a conflict there, right? Because there's a part of you that wants to go to the gym. And then there's a part of you that would rather stick your, fork in your eyeball or whatever it is, right? Like there are different parts here. So I just want to share like an example while you guys are thinking this through. So I recently, we had a client who is recently just finished and graduated the program. And hers was like, she really wanted to lose weight and be healthy because everyone in her family like was really not healthy and they were all overweight and she was overweight. And she had tried like all the different diet and lifestyle things ever, like ever. Like she had done every single like Weight Watchers, this, that, everything, but she could never really commit to anything. And when we really got into it, it wasn't because my suggestions or anyone else's suggestions weren't good. They were great suggestions. It was because when she was young, she was told so repeatedly that she really wasn't like worthwhile, that she did, that her body was a problem. She just wasn't like loved and seen and appreciated. When we rewired this on a one-to-one call and we got into like the depths of like what happened to her with her mom and her dad and all this different stuff, she just let it all go. She let herself be seen and heard. And she just started to make choices that were healthier for her. She ended up losing 78 pounds. Like 78 and easily. Like she was just like, oh, this is easy. Like I'm just choosing the next right thing for me. So that's like an example where it's like her whole life, her parts were stopping her. And then on the other side of it, she got her parts to be on the same side. And then her health completely and radically changed. Not just her health, but her husband's health, her kids' health. Everyone feels, looks better. Their asthma's gone, their eczema's gone, fatigue is gone because it just became easier.
Well, think about what Elena was saying earlier, right? With like the energy space, right? Like we've gotten away from the Eastern and we're very much in Western theology. But she's letting Sophie see those parts of her. She's letting herself see those parts of her. She's unburdening the exile. She's releasing the weight of being held in this holding pattern. So metaphorically, she's releasing the weight, the stigma behind the parts of her from the past, and it's physically showing up in her body as releasing weight.
Isn't that insane? I mean, 78 pounds. What? Wow. It's a lot of weight to lose. And the cool thing is it wasn't because she like did Weight Watchers for 6 months. It's because she actually released this stress in her body and this conflict in her body. It's actually what got her there. So this stuff is really powerful for our physical body too, not just our mental body. So is there something that you want that you haven't committed to or been able to commit to for any reason? And there's no judgment. Can you guys all think something like that, or just anything that you feel like you're in conflict with yourself about? That would be like the question. So let me know if you guys have something. Yes, you have something or you have a question.
Oh, I have something. Do you want me to share it?
Sure. If you want to, you can share.
Okay.
You don't need to. Yeah.
Requesting the utilities to my roommate, like it's just because I have to do math, and like I haven't requested some of them since December, and like I finally did the heating this Sunday. Like my brain was just able to do it on Sunday, but I still have to do like the water still. But like yeah, like my brain just like hasn't allowed me to just divide the number by 4 and and request on Venmo for like months. Yeah.
That's a perfect example. I love it. It can be small and it can be monumental too. So okay, good example.
Good indicators that there's like a parts going on is resistance, confusion, I'd say decision fatigue. You know, it's like the things that we said to ourselves, it's like, I know how to do this, but I'm just not doing it.
like, yeah. So a good one for me always is this is like super personal, but I like don't love social media. Big shocker. So for me to like show up there and like promote stuff and like put out what I do in this program and like other things out there is just like I have so much resistance to it. And those are two parts, right? This is like the part of me that wants to share it and wants everyone to hear about it because then they'll get support too, and then they'll feel better and their body will start to heal. There's that part. And then there's also the part of like, what if they think I'm stupid? What if they think, I don't know. What if they say something mean?
The cool part with like
The
parts
part.
integration work too is like you're not actually necessarily looking for a very specific outcome other than clarity of thought and thinking, right? So I had done an integration on thinking like the part of me that is tired all the time and the part of me that like doesn't want to be tired all the time. And the result of it wasn't that I all of a sudden had energy in my body that I hadn't had before. It was the realization that I'm tired and I actually need to honor those parts. For somebody else, though, it could have had an opposite outcome. So it's always for the highest intention of maintaining the integrity of the entire system. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to mindset my way into getting the thing that I want, the best, like the thing that I want for myself, right? For Sophie, when she does this as an integration, the outcome could very well be, actually, you know what? Social media isn't the place where I need to be spending my attention. I have all these other options. And it could also end up being like that old thing, like, why am I not putting myself out there anymore? Like that's like so easy for me to do now.
Yeah. So this, whatever you choose for this should be something that's like occupying confusion or a lot of time in your system where you like can't just make a decision and move on. you know? Okay. So Elena's got one. Katrina, did I see you raise your hand? That you had one?
Yeah, about to say I have so many going through my mind.
Great. This is going to be so good because we're going to teach you a tool you can do it for every single one.
Yeah, you could even choose the
Like
part
mine
that
is all,
which one to choose.
Sorry, go ahead, Katrina.
about to say mine is all around health right now. About to
Mhm.
say just really knowing that because I do a little bit of work with someone else, about to say and trying to see like that worth that I am worth health. About to say it's not just something that I desire for others. But it's like I'm constantly self-sabotaging. It's like, yeah, I know I need to go to bed, but then part of me is like, I don't deserve it.
Oh, that's another clue that there's parts to self-sabotager.
Yeah. That's
And
a
I do that
great
for,
example.
oh
When
my
you put
goodness,
it
I
in
don't
the-
even think I have enough fingers.
I was gonna say when you put it in the light of parts, like are you, it's like the question would be, are you actually self-sabotaging or are you protecting yourself in some way, shape, or form?
Yeah.
Ooh. Probably a little bit of both. I know there's a lot of, like, I have a lot of firefighter. There's a lot of anger that comes up, like the moment that I try to share something or I feel like someone is asking me to share something, I just kind of all claws out. Or I just slam a door in their face and I don't come out for like 24 hours.
No, firefighter.
Firefighter, yeah. This is going to be really helpful for you then. Imagine for just a second what your life would be like if you didn't have all those things.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's an emoji for it.
There's not, right? It's like mind blowing. This is why, this is so important. Another thing that I'll share, because those are really good, Katrina. And for this exercise today, you could pick just pick one. Like the sleep one is a great one. We'll get into the exercise in 1 second, but something that my coach, my business, he's a psychology expert as well. And I sent him something that was so in my parts earlier today. I was like, blah, like help me. And he's like, the situation is actually just a neutral fact, it's a neutral, what I sent him was like just a neutral thing, but I was assigning meaning to it. So that's another thing that's interesting. And with health can get tricky because they're talking about your physical body and we obviously want you to feel better, right? And I notice with myself, with my health, sometimes I'll have stuff like, oh, well, I'm tired. Well, instead of just being, I'm just tired and it just means I need a nap or I need to take my minerals, I'll be like, well, because you stayed up an extra hour last night and because you did this and because you did that. And then I like self-sabotage, blame, shame myself into a spiral versus it just being like, I'm tired. That's a fact. And then it's like, what do you want it to mean? Like, what are you making that to mean? Right? Because then we are the meaning makers of our reality. Right?
That's
And
that
isn't
example.
that huge?
Like, yeah, because it's like taking up the energy to self-sabotage yourself, and it's like a pretty destructive energy to be sitting in versus the like replenishing, nourishing energy of just taking a nap.
Right. It's like whoa. He said that to me today and I was like, oh my gosh. And he's like, what would you like to believe instead? Right. So like for you, like perhaps maybe like working on what do you want, if you have this current set of like this laundry list of where you believe certain things to be, maybe it's like what for each of those, what do you want to believe instead? Like what else could be true? That's like an idea for all of us, right? And then repeating that, he had me write it out and then I repeated it 3 to 5 times until it became the reality. And do you know what happened? The thing I was worried about, the person texted me while I was doing it.
That's what's so cool. You usually get the quick.
You're like, what? Right? So because we in a certain amount, we do create our reality, right? I'm not saying that we're the cause of all the problems and traumas that have happened to us. And there are certainly things that have happened to us that none of us deserve. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying sometimes we have the ability to look at things differently. Yeah. To make it easier for us. Okay, cool. Mary Lou, do you have anything? You don't have to share. I just want to make sure you have something before we move on.
I do.
Okay.
I do have something.
And you can share. I didn't want anyone to feel like they were put on the spot.
No, that's all right. I'll keep it.
Okay, cool. So grab a phone or a journal real quick. Something to write with and what we're gonna do, well, actually, I'm gonna let Carly explain dumping your bucket and the questions. You wanna go through that?
Sure. I mean, you did a very nice segue of it with what Ani was helping you with. Ooh, I said his name. Your coach. Okay, so in your journal, we're just gonna work on two of these parts. So almost like splitting, you can either split the journal down the center, or sometimes I like to just have like this side is one part and this side is the other part. The part that is like having the most conflict, like the problem part, you're going to let that part dump its bucket. Oftentimes we don't let those parts vent out. And so when you dump the bucket, it's like all the things that that part of you wants to say that maybe it isn't saying. So, you know, the part of me that is like, you're lazy and I'm afraid that if you continue to let yourself sleep, you're just going to allow yourself to sleep all the time. And then you're going to be a waste of life and then nobody's going to like you. And when nobody's liking you, you know that you're just going to keep spiraling into these thoughts, you know, like just let the part vent out.
And just to be super clear, we're not asking you to say this verbally on the call at all. Like, so if there's any fear of you, like, I don't want to fully dump it because Sophie's going to ask me to share, you don't have to share all this with us. This is just like what's in your head that you're looping on. Like, Elena, I don't know what yours is, but like, I'm not dividing it by 4 because then I'm going to do it wrong. And then I have to ask them for money. And then what if they say no? And whatever. That's like you're dumping the bucket, right? Does that make sense? Okay, cool.
Once you're done dumping the bucket, I also like the question, okay, good, what else? What else? Like you're squeezing this freaking sponge into the bucket. Just let it get all the things out. It feels so good, even though sometimes some of the stuff that coming up might evoke emotion. Like let it keep getting squeezed because it's like a roller coaster ride. It will come down as long as you keep letting it get squeezed out. Okay. You can take the opportunity to look for any patterns of thought, anything that might have come up multiple times. But really what you're going to ask is, what is the highest intention of this part? Let it answer. First thing that comes to mind, trust it. If it doesn't choose to answer, it might be working on just getting in touch with you, right? It might just be a few days of keep continuing to just be like, hey, what is the intention of this part? What is the intent? But eventually, I mean, it's usually the first thing that happens, like, what is the highest intention of this part? It might be protection. It might be safety. It might be control. It might be, you know, so you don't lose your shit in front of your coworkers. Let it say whatever it needs to say. And then you can ask it, okay, great, safety. For what purpose is your highest intention safety? You're basically chunking this part up to get to understand its role in the system. What does it think that it's doing for you? What is its purpose for doing that thing for you? And then you're gonna flip and let the other part dump its bucket.
Yeah, and you know you're done when you just get like an aha too, like a clarity, like she was saying, like this isn't necessarily, yeah, it's just like to get clear. So you can stop thinking about it.
If you get like caught up in the semantics of like what you're supposed to be doing, honestly, just having a conversation with that part is also going to be fruitful.
Yeah, you're just like letting it's basically doing what you wish that you would have had. Like perhaps you had a mother or a father who like never let you speak or something like that. It's like letting that part of you just say what it needs to say and then asking it why it's there basically. Because it's always there for you, right? We talked about how these are like here, even though like they burned down the whole house, they are there for you, right? They're there for a reason, like protection or safety or control. So just like asking it, and that will help it just chill out and you'll get an answer. All right. Does that make sense? How to do it? You can do this for every single part. So we'll let you, I'm going to do it too. So we'll, yeah, get started.
You can ask the part the same question over and over again too. I'm just gonna be a little mindful of the timing. Also, if you're getting through the dumping the bucket and the for what purpose, and you're noticing that that part is getting like quote unquote a little bit stubborn, one of the things that you can continue to ask it is like, well, what do you want instead? What do you want instead? And see if it'll like answer that. So like if I, or you can switch over to the other part as well at that point. So like if the part keeps being like, you're just never gonna be able to like live the life that you want, like, okay, well, what do you want instead? What do you want to believe instead?
I'll do 2 more minutes. All right, guys, start to just wrap it up. Okay. We'll put a pause for a moment. A lot to get out, isn't it?
We have a lot more discussion to do over here at my house.
Okay. Great. Anything you want to share with the class?
No, just not really getting to the crux of the matter. So, and my paper was not big enough.
Would you like any help with that? Have it.
Not right now. I feel like I need to process everything that I wrote down.
Okay, cool. You know where to find us if
Yeah.
you need it, if you need a call or anything. But it opened up a lot for you, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. I'll definitely send the Google Doc into the Slack so you guys have it for any time this comes up. Because it's like I'm with Katrina. For me, it's like it's multiple things usually happening. All right. Any other reflections, Elena, Katrina, for you? Was this helpful?
Yeah, like it's like I'm not requesting utilities because I feel bad that the living room's not as clean, and then it's just like, oh, I don't deserve utility money. And then also it was a task that I wanted us, like me and my spouse, to do also. So it also came from a spot where like I shouldn't be the one managing this. And then yeah, so it just keeps spiraling. Yeah.
Wow, that's a really big, see, I wouldn't, it's interesting. It's like the neutral fact is I haven't asked for the money, but then it's like underneath it, there's like so much that is keeping you
Mhm.
from getting.
Yeah.
And then that's like stressful too, because then you're paying for his half of the utility money, right?
Yeah. And he will gladly give it to me. Like he like
Right.
he will gladly give me the money. Like not an issue at all. Yeah. So
Amazing. Do you feel like you got to a place of resolution with it, or do you still need to keep going?
oh, I think like resolution enough. I think it's also the same thing. Like I haven't sent thank you cards for my wedding from April 2023. Like, and it's like I have to do 3 like thank you cards, and I still have not been able to do it. So
Okay. Now you know how to resolve that.
yeah. So it's the same thing. Yeah.
That's an interesting one. I had that one too,
Okay.
actually.
Yeah. So
Wow. Okay, well now you have a tool. So when there's something that you're not doing and you're sitting on it for more than a
a
day or
year.
yeah, like, it's been a week. Let's stop it. Let's stop putting your vital life force energy towards those things fast,
Mhm.
right? Like let's get it's like the point isn't that like life is gonna stop being stressful or that we're gonna have things in our lives that like require attention. It's more like how can we navigate it more easily?
Yeah, because I'm just stuck in like a shame spiral from like all these like things on my to-do list that I never completed. And so yeah, and so it just keeps getting deeper and deeper the longer I put it off.
Now,
Mm,
here's the thing that's gonna maybe blow your mind is that continuing to keep yourself in the shame spiral is a self-validating, self-fulfilling prophecy because it's giving
Yeah,
you permission to be in the shame spiral.
yeah, yeah.
So what is the knowing all of that, knowing that you get to choose your reality and not be in the shame spiral anymore? Is there one action step you can take in the next 24 hours?
Yeah, I could like write these thank you cards. Well, I'm also traveling today, so I might have to be like a weekend thing.
Sure. In the
But
next
yeah.
72 hours or whatever.
Yeah, so I could just like make sure I set time aside to do it. Or just like on my like what happened with the utilities was like on my commute, I just all of a sudden started doing the math.
Amazing. Okay.
Yeah, for one of the utilities. Yeah.
Okay. You want to set the goal for yourself that by the end of the weekend, you'll send your thank you cards or write them?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you want to do about the utility, the rest of it?
I can do that today on my commute.
Or I
Yeah.
like that you're cross-mapping the strategy that worked for you to get to the place where you were doing it to begin with.
Yeah.
That was good. Cool. So do it and then let us know how that
Yes,
goes.
I'll let you know. Thanks so
Yeah,
much.
share with us because that's the other part of it is just like doing it and then the accountability, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're rooting for you. You can do it.
Thank you.
Um,
Yeah.
how was that for you? Any reflections you want to share? Anything we can help you with to get clearer on?
Um, well, I know my anxiety kind of kicked in, so my mind is just trying to stop me from throwing up and crying. So my mind's like, nope, we're not doing this right now. But again, that could just be something else that kicked in. But what came up for me was that it's they're definitely trying to protect me. So like by me not taking care of myself properly, it's almost like I'm giving myself excuses for all my fuck ups. Sorry, my F ups.
Fine.
Okay, say it.
Yeah.
Um, so that like I don't have to do the work and dig deeper. I can just say, oh, well, I'm tired.
Mm.
What happens if you do the work and dig deeper?
I mean, I don't know, but I've started to do some of it. Usually it's like a lot of, well, other than a lot of fighting myself, usually it's a lot of crying. I feel like I haven't slept in like a week.
Hmm.
So my body's like, we don't really want to go through the storm. Like
Mm.
we know the calm afterwards is going to be amazing. But do we really want to go through all of that storm? Like all the anger, all the anxiety, all the crying, all the extreme fatigue. So I
Hmm.
just have to kind of convince my mind that A, it's totally worth it. We really do want to get to the other side. And B, whatever I'm considering as fuck ups, they're not.
Mm.
They're just learning opportunities.
Ooh, that's a big one. Whoa, that's a really big one. Because if you're constantly thinking that you're effing up and then you stay stuck in that cycle of shame, like kind of what Alina was saying, it's like you're staying in a shame spiral, then you just like never get out of it. And then you just, it sucks up all your energy and then you don't sleep. And then it's just like, yeah, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I wonder if you could take a at home exercise. I have an idea for you. This is just coming to me, just channeling to me of I would love for you to make a list and on one side, write down everything you think is an F up. And on the other side, find one thing that's a learning opportunity from it. Like, even if it's like, I'm really tired, like, oh, I'm tired. Well, okay, I'm learning that I need to take a nap. I'm learning I need to order the supplements Sophie told me to order. I'm learning I need to change my diet or whatever it is. And just be a learning versus I did it wrong.
Yep.
Also want to offer the reframe that the fact that the anxiety was coming out is a firefighter part. So in which case it seems like you were doing the exercise really successfully because you were getting closer to a core wound than you likely had been getting before for the anxiety to start to come out. So you actually got a third part to pop out there.
Yeah, so with this work, it's really easy to find the things that's like wrong or that you did wrong, you guys. But the biggest thing that I've learned from Carly, she is really good at reframes. So there is literally always a silver lining. Like there's literally always like this is what it's teaching me. Oh, this is what it's teaching me. So if you can get to that place, it's like such a better place to be in your system. So for all of you, you all should have direct access to us through the chat. Send us use this messenger, use the group, use the one-to-one, message us when this stuff comes up. You don't have to do this by yourself anymore. That's why you're here. We're all going through this. So as you move through these things and fear and anxiety and shame come up, share it. If you don't feel comfortable sharing it in the group, share it one-to-one. We'll help you through it. We'll give you exercises. We'll give you love and support. We
Yeah,
all deal with this stuff. We all deal with it.
I'm feeling also like channeled towards tasking for Katrina, which is funny because I was thinking it and then you said something else. I was like, oh no, now she has two. I can't say mine, but I'm going to.
Say it anyway. It's fine.
Have
She
the
can decide
choice.
if she
You have
wants
the
to do it.
choice to choose. Yeah. And when you were talking about like being at kind of like at war with your own mind and with the anxiety, I don't know, something that just came up to me is what if you could be in the role of like nurturing the anxiety? So maybe anxiety kind of feels like it's working against you at the moment, but you get to be like literally bringing in like the visualization of turning that anxiety into like a little baby and like wrapping it up in your love and just like talking to it with like validation and like I can see why you're scared right now. I can understand that and just kind of like mothering that part a little bit.
Yeah, I like that. That's such a good idea. Yeah,
It could
because
be an animal too, like if you'd rather visualize it as like a little kitty cat than like a baby, or it could be a version of yourself that you're, anything that allows you to step into that role of like their nurturer.
yeah. I think we can all agree that when we're feeling anxious and then we go into blaming, it's like it doesn't feel as good as like being loved, right? I think something that like has been really hard for me with this that I just wanted to kind of share is because anxiety is something I know really well. It's a part that I know really, really well. Really well. I mean, Carly can tell you, as my friend. And the biggest hurdle for me with it has been actually loving it. Knowing that all of our parts are here for our highest good. I'm like, oh man, okay, yeah, that's right. I'm meeting you where you're at. You're just scared, right? Okay. And that just dissolves it so fast versus me like fighting against it and making it wrong. You know what I mean? All right. Cool. Big work. Mary Lou.
I just have one, just when I was listening to Katrina, I just wanted to say to her, thank you for sharing. And because you come, especially when you come into the group, and I remember clearly coming into the group, it's hard to share. But then when you realize that everybody is going through the same stuff, like when you were talking about the self-sabotaging, I totally get that, totally. And everybody here is dealing, I think, with the same stuff. And so the more you share, at least for me, the more I got it out and realized that everybody was, we're all going through the same stuff. It was a lot easier. The suggestions were all really great. And it's not easy to share a lot of stuff. So I just wanted to say, we all get it. we're all getting it, totally. So that's it.
Thank you, Mary Lou. Appreciate that. Okay, so I just want to zoom out. I feel like Katrina and Alina, you have very clear steps of what you're doing. Yes, I feel good. Mary Lou, you didn't share, and that's totally fine. Just like bigger picture, even from outside of this call, just in your health in general, is there anything that you're unclear about or anything you need help with, like next steps over the next week until we meet again? I know you also have some vacation coming up, so.
No, this is like one of those calls like has happened in the past where I have so much stuff going on in my mind that I can't like organize it all right now in order to like spew out something that makes any sense at all. So
great. As long as you feel supported, that's all that
yeah.
I want to make sure before we get off, because I know you have a little bit of break coming up.
Yep.
Okay, cool. And then Katrina, I know I just wanted to make sure, are you clear? Are you good with like and everyone else, if you're good, feel free, you can hop off too. But I just want to make sure, Katrina, because you're newer to everything, I'm sending you a link for something called Nutridyne, which is a supplement company that ships to Canada. So I know I found it. Hallelujah. There's like been like hours in the back end. How do I get these things to her? So I found you and I was able to consolidate it to just 2 things. So I'm going to send that to you. It's going to come to you in an email. So that'll be good. And then just as a reminder, keep going through the videos and watching and starting to add new things. And if you're getting stuck with like, I can't get myself to go to sleep or whatever the thing is for your health, just like that is literally why either the group or the one-to-one chat is there. Just send us a message and we'll help you with like the literal next step that you need. All right. So just want to encourage you to get in there and respond to us so that we can help you if you get stuck. All right. All right. I'm sending you guys so much love and happy 4th of July for the Americans and happy Wednesday, Katrina, to you. We'll see you next week for breath work. All right. Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.